Welcome to The B Word, a women's lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Katie Ploss. I'm a school psychologist, women's wellness coach, a doula, and the founder of BU, a women's wellness community. I created The B Word to share my stories, knowledge, and training to help you navigate the everyday challenges of being a woman. We discuss everything from navigating dating and relationships, parenting, building a career, to just finding what you're passionate about and figure out who you are meant to be. At the B Word, we aim to destigmatize mental health challenges, grow, heal, and empower you to be your most authentic self. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the B Word. I took a few weeks off, and I appreciate your patience as I was lifing and figuring out what I was going to be doing and all the things. And I know I made a big announcement. I'll be talking more about that. But today's episode, I have Heidi Bee on, and I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her and talk about her work. At the end, I'll get into all my stuff, but let's first talk about our guest because I'm so excited. And it's been several weeks that I've been planning this episode and thinking about it. So we're going to dive right into it, you guys. I have Heidi Bee, and she is a divorce comeback coach. She's a certified and trauma-informed divorce coach, and she does somatic breath work facilitation as well. She has a 3-month comeback course and coaching community, which gives women the exact roadmap, resources, and relationships they need to navigate their new normal and get their life back after divorce. And I was talking to her before the show started. I wasn't divorced, but I definitely understand this concept of a comeback map and a roadmap. And I wish I had a roadmap and when I was going through my grief. So we're going to talk about that. She's also the host of her own podcast, Divorce Comeback Coach, where she hosts candid conversations with truth, talk, and tips to start taking your next best step now towards the life you deserve and desire. Hi, Heidi. Thank you for being on the B Word.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me, Katie. It is a pleasure to have listened to your show, and it's really great to be with you. And I'm actually really glad that you're not divorced because I think that comebacks happen in all different areas of our lives. So it's not just applicable to divorce. I just happened to be divorced and felt like I was pulled in the direction of helping folks in this area. So I branded myself Divorce Comeback Coach.
I love it. I love that and I think this is a really important area though. Like you said, we can experience grief from relationships in totally different ways outside of divorce that are just as equally as valid. But I think that this is a really important arena, especially for women, to empower them throughout this process because as you know, having been divorced, it can be so easily a very disempowering experience.
Oh, yeah. And I know that something that you and I share in common is we both woke up at one point in our journey and went, I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know who this person is. I have different identities from old relationships. I don't know what the truth is for me anymore. Who am I? How do I get to my next best step? Like, what now? What next? And that's literally where I woke up after I got divorced and signed the papers. I remember my lawyer coming down, giving me a pat on the back, a little handshake, and being like, good luck, Heidi. Like, he was a really nice guy, but he was like, good luck. And I was like, good luck. I don't know what to do now. Now that it's final, what do you do? Because you find, I don't know about you, but I was in an 11-year relationship. I think you mentioned your first one was or your first
10,
long-term one was 10.
10 years.
And this whole podcast is dedicated to your complete comeback story. I think that's why I'm obsessed with it. I love it so much. And what I realized is I was stuck in all the old identities of who I was as a significant other. I call this significant other syndrome. And you don't have to be married to have significant other syndrome. It's like you attach this core need. We have this really deep core need for significance and belonging. And when we outsource that significance through someone or something else, it can be a career path, it can be a person, it can be a child, like being a mom, it can be identities. When we outsource that significance, we start to lose parts of ourselves, right? Think about the umbilical cord for moms. You're feeding someone else parts of you, and it without you even knowing it, it just takes over, and then you feel a little less nourished. And all of a sudden, when you cut that cord, that part is no longer attached. And when you break up or you go through divorce or you go through a job loss or anything like that, all of a sudden you go, who the heck am I? I don't know who I am without the significance tied to this amazing job that I've had for 5 years, 15 years. I don't know who I am now that I've tied my self-worth to being someone else's partner that has dinner with them every day and conversations with them every day and a sleeping pattern with them every day. I don't know how to operate in this world. And I don't even know if I want toast or eggs. I can't choose because I'm so freaking overwhelmed. And I don't know about you, but like the thoughts were coming from, I call it my mean girl. I had all these mean girl
Yes, the
messages.
inner mean girl. Yes, I
Inner
do.
mean girl, inner mean girl. And I also keep it gender neutral. I now call it the bully brain. We have two sides
Oh, I
of our
like that.
brain. We've got the
The
bully
B
brain.
word, Heidi.
It's a B word. It's the bully brain. Some people call it the BS beliefs, but we've got the bully brain and then we have the bestie brain. So
I
often
like that.
I caught myself in the beginning bullying. She was such a mean girl. She was bullying me all the time, saying, "Why didn't you try hard enough? What happened? You're a failure." And basically putting me in this divorce ditch. This, I call it the sadness spiral. It's like a tornado. You just collect all the shit in your life and it's swirling around you and it's super noisy and it's super loud. And I remember just feeling, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do in all of this? I completely lost myself in everything that was swirling around me. And I really needed to get to a place in a space of feeling grounded again. But I'm not gonna lie, I spent 3 years sitting in the divorce ditch and not knowing what to do. And I got really good at distracting myself through a lot of different things: food, alcohol, Netflix, naps, over socializing. I got really good at isolating. I got really good at using healthy things like running. I would just like run for hours or walk or do whatever I could to just numb out and not think about anything. So I
Anything
love
but sitting with yourself. Anything.
anything.
Anything. That is anything with a capital A. And I very much relate to this. You will do anything but sit with yourself because sitting with, to me, honestly, and like not to, this is not being dramatic. Sitting at that time in my life, sitting with myself was like the equivalent of death.
Yes.
Like I would die if I sat with myself. Like it was that
Yes.
painful. It was that painful to do. I had so much shame and guilt and self-loathing and also this just sense of acute failure. Like
Yep.
everything that I was supposed to do and all of these like check boxes that everyone tells us we have to check in life. I had completely just fucked up my checklist.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I felt like such a failure. And that meant that not only was that relationship a failure, but I was a failure and I wasn't going to be able to check my boxes ever again.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that incited such grief that like my life wasn't going to look like the way that it was supposed to look. And
Yeah.
what does that mean? Who am I if my life doesn't look like how it's supposed to look? It went beyond bully brain. I just need to do anything to get out of this painful feeling, like anything.
Yeah.
That's really where my mental health started to really struggle. Maybe if I'd
Yeah.
gotten better at avoiding, I wouldn't have got into that like deep of a place. But you see why people do it, right? Like you see how people
Yeah.
avoid and find all of these coping mechanisms because it is so painful without
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I think what you just brought up is a really important thing for people to hear, which is that those coping mechanisms, they aren't all bad. They're actually there just trying to temporarily protect you from too much, from trauma, which is too much, too soon, too fast. So if we try to just dive into the deep end of the healing journey and we start feeling it all at once, it starts coming on, a couple of things happen. Our bully brain goes, oh shit, we're going to be stuck here forever. If you feel an ounce of this for any amount of time, you're going to be stuck here forever. You're going to be paralyzed in this divorce stitch, in this unhappiness stitch for life. And that's really the damage that the bully brain does, instead of our bestie brain going, it's okay, you're sad. It's okay, you're angry. It's okay, you're hurting. It's okay, Heidi. It's okay. You're still loved. You're safe. Bring it down. We're gonna make it through this, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. It's not a soft, loving, caring, compassionate voice. That's the bestie voice. But it's so overwhelmed by the mean girl messages and noise that if you don't have the right tools to turn the volume down, like think of a radio station. When you listen to a station, like for me, heavy metal isn't my jam. It's just not. If I listen to that, which just sounds like screaming to me, it's like that bully message was like listening to heavy metal at a 25 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have the tools or someone that's able to help you navigate that and literally just help you grab your hand with you and turn that dial down to a 2, it's too noisy, it's too crowded, and you just stay lost. And
Yes.
maybe you stay lonely and you just feel awful.
Mhm.
And you don't know what to do with your grief, and you don't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, because I had never felt depression in my life. And for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I'm depressed. And I was so ashamed that I knew I was depressed. And you better believe I wasn't going to tell anybody. I kept that, I hid that secret, and I masked. And I remember I would drive to work every day, bawling my eyes out after I'd already done all my makeup and all my hair. And then I would wipe everything off, and I had a second kit in my car, and I would wipe and I would put my makeup back on, and I would tell myself, you're going to be okay for 8 hours. Okay, here we go. And I would put my sunglasses on and I would walk in, I'd march, and I'd be like, hi, everybody, I'm here. Don't worry about it. I'm good to go. And then I would work. And I'd shut my car door, and the flood work would just start coming again. And I would cry and I would cry and I would cry. And by the time I got home, I had called the pizza delivery guy, which at the time they sold wine. So it was like, okay, I want the cheesy
That's a
sticks.
vibe, though.
It was such a vibe. It was such a vibe. This was before DoorDash and things like that. So I was like, I found the pizza place that would deliver the cheesy sticks and the bottle of Cab Sauv. And it would be sitting out by my door when I got home, and I would just binge that and eat that, and then I would pass out, and I would do it over and over and over again. There was no room for feeling an ounce of anything because I was terrified of feeling the pain.
Yeah.
And it kept me stuck for 3 years.
Yep.
3 years.
And I think, too, what was so, like, life-changing for me was, one, knowing that there were tools and to help to give you the capacity to heal and feel these things, and you didn't have to just feel them, and that you were gonna just be on this roller coaster ride that you would never get off.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece that I thought about when you were describing that is that it's okay to be in the trenches for 3 years if that's what you needed to do. And I think I also didn't give myself permission to grieve, and whether to, and not, I think in general, like my whole healing journey, a lot of what came out of it that I've realized more recently is I needed to learn how to not be tied to a timeline.
Yeah.
And whether it's a grieving timeline, whether it's a depression timeline, it's a whatever it is, I felt this pressure. I needed to be over it, or that relationship was so wrong for me. Like, why am I depressed about this? This is totally the right thing. And so there was this shame in feeling like I could express it to other people, or literally even to myself, like you were saying. It wasn't even just to others, it was also to yourself. Maybe if you would have had the tools you had, you wouldn't have had to stay in the shame spiral for 3 years, but it's okay that you did. Giving yourself permission and that forgiveness almost. I needed to go on that journey to get to that part of my healing, to get to where I am now. It all builds upon itself. And I think that's so important.
Yeah. I love that so much. It really is that permission. And I think that, in all honesty, I needed to get to the point where I was sick and tired of sitting where I was sitting and doing what I was doing and thinking what I was feeling, or thinking what I was thinking, and ordering the same thing and showing up the same way and not feeling like myself. I needed the pain I needed the annoyance of not acknowledging the pain to be poking at me so much that I was like, oh, fine. I'm done being like this.
Yep.
And sometimes I think we need to allow ourselves, like you said, to be there as long as we need to be there. But the minute that you feel that call to do something different, stop ignoring it.
Yes.
Stop ignoring it. That's the call. And so if anybody's hearing this and they're like, oh man, I felt that, I'm feeling this little poke. That's it. That's it. You got it. You're there. You're there. And you're done doing life the way you've been doing it. I had a on the bathroom floor moment. I don't know if you know what that means, but
oh yes, I do, and I have had them. I had a few of them.
I had so many of them.
Had a couple of rock bottom moments.
So many of them. It was another place I found myself regularly. So
I actually have videos of me like drunk on the bathroom floor. Like
I wish I still
and I
had
don't
that.
delete them because I'm like, I need to remember this. This version of me needs to be remembered.
Yes. I wish I had those, because I have them in my memory ingrained. But there was one day on the bathroom floor, and I knew this place and space very well, very well. And this had never happened before. I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, I heard this voice inside myself. I heard this voice, and it said, "Get up and go find your joy." And I was like, "What the is going on?" I had never heard this before. And all I did, Katie, was I just got up, I put my shoes on, I went out the door, and I started going for a walk. And I was like, I don't know what this means, but I'm here, I'm ready to play. And it was like that internal knowing was my moment of like, enough of this. You've been subscribing to the story that your joy is lost, it's gone, it doesn't exist, it's not available to you anymore, it is cut off. You're going to have to figure out how to navigate life without it for the rest of your life. And I was like, that's suck. So I went out and I started this practice that I invented called joy spotting. And joy spotting is if there's something in your life, and you can change the name to peace spotting or confidence spotting or whatever you feel like you need to collect enough evidence of that it's out there. And if it exists in the world, then you can have it. Like
I
if
love
it's
this.
out there, you can have it. And so one little practice that I love to give people is, okay, just go out and go joy spotting. It doesn't mean you're going to feel joyful all of a sudden, but it means that if you can allow yourself to witness even other people enjoy, even the joy of the sunset or of a flower or of puppies in the park, something. And I started to collect all these moments of joy, all this evidence that it's out here. And little by little, week by week, I would go out for these joy spotting walks. And I was like, okay. And then I started to notice it in my own life. And then I started to feel just like a little teeny ounce of it. And then more and more to the point where I was like, oh, I'm part of creating this. Oh, if I could get a little bit of joy back, I wonder what else I could get. And so the comeback coaching is all about reclamation. It is this reclaiming of whatever you think that you have lost. Whatever you have told yourself is unavailable to you now for whatever reasons, it is this clearing out of all the BS beliefs and all the nonsense that's been keeping you stuck. And it is this reclaiming, it's this fierce commitment to going after the version of you that you want to be. And I know that the be you is like a huge part of the transition you went through with the B word podcast.
Yeah.
It's be you. And I realized that's really what it was for me. And I started using joy as an acronym. So the word joy to me, because joy was like a huge thing. Like I don't have it anymore. I can't have it. So I'm obsessed with it now because I found a way to get it back. And then I realized one day, oh my gosh, joy is an acronym. So joy actually stands for just own you. Just own you.
I
And
love it.
so you get to own your voice. You get to own your choices for the day. You get to own your attitudes. You get to own your energy and what it's going to be and how you're going to use it. You get to own your intentions for the day. You get to own the types of relationships that you're going to start creating, that you're going to release because they no longer serve you, or that you're going to attract because you're operating as this owned version of yourself. So I think ownership and reclamation is like the hugest part of a comeback.
Yes. And I think for me too, like because I've always gravitated toward personal growth work, even before I went through my comeback, I really had like always, I mean, I was a psychologist and I also had just, gravitated toward coaching work and all of these things. And so, but I hadn't really lived a traumatic experience yet to apply
Yeah.
this skill to. However, I think for me, like joy for you, it was joy. I think for me, I don't know, it was more self-worth. And I think a lot of people were so shocked by this with me because I do have a pretty, like, confident personality. Like, I have a
Yeah.
very boisterous, outgoing, extroverted personality. So
Mm,
people assume that if you talk and walk confidently, then you must be confident.
mhm.
When really internally, I had no self-worth. I felt that the relationship that I was in was what I deserved, even though it was, like, much at a lower vibe than where I operate at naturally of who I am, or authentically, I should say, like who I authentically am. And it was in such contrast to that. And I think when I told my friends and family, I think what I was missing and why I stayed in this wrong relationship for so long was I didn't see the self worth. And I think that was part of my comeback journey too, was like reclaiming and taking ownership of who I am is so much more than talking the talk. Like, you have to walk the walk too. And I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially when it comes to relationships and like choosing your partner and all these things, like there's this, I don't know, because I'm 31 and a lot of people are getting married in my life now, a lot of my peers for I always say this is the first round, but I think that there's this need to make it look a certain way and not really knowing what that truly means. And I think part of that reclamation is like really figuring out what does that ownership mean and feel like to me, not just what it looks like, but what it feels like. And I think I found a whole new type of confidence that I didn't have, and that it wasn't fake or overcompensating for something.
Yeah.
And I
I can
think that
relate to that.
yeah, and I think that's so important too, is that you don't see these things overnight. Like when you're talking about like those little things, you're not gonna feel it right away. You still gotta remember there are those bathroom floor moments, and that's like why I keep that on my phone. I have so much compassion for her. And I think coming from it from that perspective versus what you were saying of just being in such judgment of yourself. I think sometimes when we heal, we also can be so easily in judgment of our that past self. And
Mhm.
so really realizing like this is that roadmap is like you're building it block by block. So wherever you are in it,
Mm.
feel like you're going to arrive ever, but you do. So
Oh my
somehow you do. I
gosh.
don't know when the light bulb comes on or when it really came on for me. It was a I don't know, it was a multitude of things. Like, did you have a light bulb moment?
I wish you know what? I'm gonna sit with that. I'm gonna be journaling on that later for sure because it just felt like it was a series of things that I can't even really put my pulse on. I think it was realizing that I was choosing different. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm choosing different. Oh, I'm choosing different." And
Yes.
going, "Oh, how does that feel? Oh, this would have made me feel so scared before, and now I'm doing that." Or, "Oh, I would have felt so judged before." Or I know I remember I don't know why this one's coming through right now, but I remember when I moved into my first apartment, it was this like shoebox apartment. It was a studio apartment. I was living in California at the time. So once we split, I could barely afford anything on my own, especially on a beach property.
Oh
And
my
I was
god, yeah.
determined to live in a beach. So it was like this teeny tiny studio apartment with this Murphy bed that came out and was like, "Journal," and and eventually I had done some healing work and I had evolved to like this really elevated, gorgeous apartment that had all these fun amenities. And one of the things was this pool and this private beach and this volleyball court outside, right where the ocean was like in the middle of all of it. And so I made all these new friends and everything's super aligned. And I remember I would go out and all these people would want to play volleyball on the beach. Who doesn't want to play beach volleyball? Hand up me. I didn't want to play. This version of me was like, she wants to read a book in the sun and just like float in the pool. She's good to
Preach.
go.
Preach.
And they were like, "Don't you wanna come and play volleyball?" And I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, nope, nope, don't wanna play volleyball." And that was one of my aha moments to go, "You really decided who you are and what you want because you're not afraid that your friends aren't gonna call you to hang out later. You're just like, 'See ya, I'll watch you guys, I wanna be doing this right now.'" So to have those moments of, "I'm doing what I wanna do. I'm making a choice for myself. I'm choosing what I want for dinner." I was a series of a lot of that kinda stuff.
I think as women, we are so conditioned to not take steps that are authentic to us, like to make choices that are authentic to who we are and what we want. And I
Mhm.
think it is it's life changing, but it's very empowering to reclaim that too. I think
Yeah.
especially and then we get married and we get caught up in what the wife that we're supposed to be, the roles that we're supposed to play, the people that we're supposed to please. I think women are just as a group, we are very conditioned to do that from a very young age. Even I've talked about this before, like little girls being pressured to hug a family member that they don't really want to touch. Like it starts
Totally.
very young that we are pressured to say yes all the time. And I think when we finally take our own power back, it is so life changing because you didn't even know it was power that you had
Ah.
access to. You didn't give yourself the permission to do that. And that's that in and of itself, if you do nothing else, just giving your empowering yourself and giving yourself that permission is gonna
Mm.
inevitably change your life. That is gonna inevitably be some type of light bulb moment.
You talk about so many of the B words. I talk about a lot of P words when it comes to healing. And the P words for me, it starts with the pause, like turning down the noise, taking a pause, taking a time out. The second one is the purge. So you're clearing out, you're letting go of things. You're not letting go. I don't really actually like that phrase, but like it's triggering for people. But releasing. like releasing a lot of things that don't
It's like
serve you.
pruning.
Yeah.
This is my nerdy psychologist brain. It's like dendrite pruning. Our brains like
Mm.
start to prune stuff that we don't
Yeah.
think about, like the neural connections in our brain. They start to prune them, and we don't use them. It's the same thing, and I think it is not letting go, but it's just it's. I use another B word, butterfly. So I cocoon into I remember doing this so vividly. I remember one summer, like a couple years ago, I was so depressed and I didn't really understand why. Because I'm towards the end of my healing journey at this point. Like I had done a lot of work and I figured out who I was but I was having still like I was exhausted. And they say that a
Mm.
lot too, like once you go through a healing journey that you're very tired for a long
Yeah.
time, which I can attest to that.
Yep.
So I was very tired, but I felt depressed and I was like reading like smut books I would just like totally like isolate, read Sarah J. Maas, like Akatar and like,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember being concerned about this though. When I said this to my coach, I'm like, I just feel like I should be wanting to be out more or like wanting to celebrate all of this work that I've done. And my coach at the time was like, "No, you are cocooning right now. Like actually need to do this because you are gonna break out of this cocoon and your life's gonna completely change." And
Mhm.
it did. I ended up meeting my fiance, like whatever, the rest is history. But I didn't know that was part of it either. And I
Yeah.
think to be able to be guided on, again, going back to your roadmap and being able to give the permission, that's what a coach really does. The permission to prune, the permission to pause, the permission to do whatever
Yeah.
you need to do to
Yeah.
heal. I don't think so. Well, a lot of times we just cannot, for whatever reason, whatever blocks we come with, be based on our past experiences. We just sometimes we just aren't able to. And so
Mm.
that's really where someone like you and your sport, it really helps when someone's been through the experience too. But
Yes.
this can be applied to, like we've said, not just divorce, any type of healing journey, grieving journey that you've been on.
Yeah. I think that coaches also position the permission. So
Mm.
I don't have to give my clients the permission. I have to position the tools that I know in a way that they actually get to use the tools to self permission. There's a lot of sovereignty
Yeah.
in and ownership when you give yourself I call it writing your own permission slip. When you write that permission slip, it's every day. What do I need permission for? I call it permissioning and P3, three priorities for the day. So you set the tone for your day by writing your permission slip and then writing down three things that you want to dedicate your energy to that confidently you can make a promise to complete. And that also delivers a lot of things to what I call the trust bank, building that part of us back up. And I think that part of the trust bank also connects to what you were talking earlier about confidence. Like confidence isn't just this thing that extroverts have that you're born with, that you're like, oh, some people have more, some people have less. In my book, confidence is totally cultivated by courageous action. And so we take courageous action once we've made deposits to the trust bank, once we've done things to create evidence that we are trustworthy for ourselves again. And we do that by making promises to ourselves. I also really love your butterfly analogy because this is so wild. When I first started my business in 2019, it was actually called Joyfully Divorced. And my podcast was not called Comeback Coach. It was called Cup of Joy, the podcast. So, as I shared earlier, I was really obsessed with joy. It means just own you. But to the naked eye, it looked like this girl is just like telling everybody to just be happy again. And what it really was when you signed up to be part of the program, and I got this concept after I do a body-based practice called breath work. I'm a certified breath work facilitator. So you use your breath to get to parts of yourself to initiate releases that allow you to make more space for the things that you want for yourself. And it's not difficult, but you just have to be willing to do it. So during a breathwork session on myself, I had an image of myself being in a cocoon and arriving to a beautiful butterfly and then being able to just spread her wings and fly. So I developed Joyfully Divorced from this place in this space of this butterfly concept with a framework called SOAR, coming from the cocooning of the butterfly, and then soaring, which stood for shed, open, align, and rise. And we still use a lot of that framework today and taking friends through the phases of that cocooning stage, which is critical, but then shedding the layers, opening up yourself for opportunities, aligning with what you want your new focus to be, and then really rising to and elevating yourself to this next level of your comeback. So I just love that you said the butterfly. It's also a B word, which I'm obsessed with, all the B words. In fact, I had a bunch of B words if you want me to quick spout them out.
Please do.
I love all the B words. I think one of the B words is becoming. Who do you want to become? The comeback is always you get to choose this next chapter. You get to participate in the creation of the becoming. So I love the B word for becoming. Who do you want to choose to
Yes.
become?
Yeah.
Like I just mentioned, breath work was a huge part of my journey and being able to release. So also, love to use a phrase, how we do breath is how we do life. So if you're ever feeling stuck, I want you to check your breath. If you check your breath, you'll find, oh, I'm holding it. What are you holding back? If you don't have any breath, where are you feeling depleted? So a lot of times we can use our breath to connect into where we're really stuck, but also to move through the emotions that we're feeling. So breath work is another B word. I think a lot of us are striving for belonging.
The big one.
Just a big old B is belonging. And we don't have to feel like we belong when we give ourselves permission to already be there. Like you
Yes.
can belong within yourself first, and then you will belong everywhere else in your life that's meant for you. We're not meant for everybody. We're not meant for every situation. So if you're ever feeling like you're going through a phase of rejection, through heartache and heartbreak, or through getting laid off from a job, just remember that it's not rejection, it's redirection. And you will belong exactly where you belong in those moments when you decide to choose yourself first. So I think belonging is a huge part of the healing process. And then I think that breakthroughs is
Mm,
another B. Like what kind of
yes, yes,
breakthroughs are you going to
yes.
welcome in? And then I just think like beliefs. What am I choosing to believe about myself? What you said earlier was like, is this even true? Is this even me? Just questioning your beliefs in a curious and compassionate way has been the road and path to paving a way forward for me. It's been a game changer in my life.
Yeah.
So those are my B words.
I love all of those. I think, and as you were talking, I was thinking about the thoughts or the mantras that I used that fell into those categories that provided me so much comfort during those hard times, like belonging. And I remember being, when I was dating, I was like so fearful of rejection
Yeah.
and feeling like I was so tired of feeling rejected and lost and lonely and not having belonging. And I remember one of the most comforting mantras I had was, I've got me no matter what. And I still use it now. I adore my fiance, but God forbid he got hit by a bus tomorrow. Like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I have got to know that I have me no matter what the crazy stuff happens in this world.
Yeah.
And that I felt so much belonging within myself before I met my fiance. And I think that also was what empowered me to be able to choose the right partner this time
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I had that sense of self belonging. I think when we get really squirrely, and again, the other B word you talked about was belief. We believe that we need to belong to somebody to have belonging. We start to make decisions that aren't authentic to ourselves. And I think that was a lot of the work that I had to do as well. And I think too, like what really put me in the right direction was just digesting material from coaches and creators. And you are very creative with words. And you know, to have your lists and even when you're talking about the roadmap or your permission slips and all these things, right? I needed to digest material from people like you that just reminded me over and over when I didn't have the skills to remind myself.
Yeah.
Brain change work is a lot of repetition. And so not only did I repeat it to myself, but I also listened to other people repeat it a lot. And it wasn't
Yes.
always about me. It would be like, I'd be watching someone else get coached because the program I was in was a group coaching program. So we would get to watch each other
Yes.
get coached. And
Yep.
so it wasn't always just directed at me. Sometimes I was even more responsive to watching other people work through the same blocks or breakdowns that I had. And that repetitive work I did it for a year, really focus on it every single day for a year and put all of my energy onto it. That is what started to change my brain and started to
Mm.
reconnect those and remold and reshape those beliefs that I had held on to for my whole life. And that's when things start to massively change. And I think people get so caught up in the external circumstances outside of them need to change. And
Mhm.
when you really get close and cozy with the belief that those things will change when you do, is so powerful. But
Mm.
in those and there are gonna be those days and those moments, right, like, of that acute pain where you're on the bathroom floor when you and maybe it is, like, for you 3 years where, like, you needed to just go home and drink wine and eat your cheesy bread, and, like, honestly, like, I really do encourage people to sit with their pain because
Yeah.
and however long that is, because that is the first you have to do that. You have to go through to break. Like, we can't go over the breakthrough or under it, like, we have to break
Nope.
down to break through,
Yeah.
and I really do believe that was so powerful and to be able to use it as a tool to help other
Mhm.
people. Like, we've been
Mhm.
there, you and I have been there, and it looked a little bit different, but there was that feeling, and when you see other people going through it, and I think too, that extra layer of compassion really is a gift to be able to help people navigate their circumstances.
100%. I could not agree more. And it's really great that you said to listening to other people because you could hear the same thing from 6 different people on a different podcast or in a different way. And you just needed it the one way that one person said it that day. And
Literally.
so it's just that's what I love about your show and sharing things with folks is it's like, who knows when it's going to be the one way that person said it or the conversation that we had today that's going to make somebody go, oh, I finally get it. I finally heard it enough times or heard it the way I needed to hear it. And I finally feel it in my system. And now I'm going to do something with it.
Yes, yes, and really take when you feel that call, like you said, or like feeling when it feels like it sinks in the same way that I encourage people to sit with their pain, I just as much as encourage you to move with the momentum. Like when you
Yeah.
feel that call, when you feel that momentum, and you feel like you're ready to spread your wings, go follow it. Do not ignore it. I think we sometimes people do get fearful or caught up in their shame. They don't listen
Hmm.
to those nudges. It is
Oh, yeah.
so important to ride the wave, like all of the waves.
Yeah.
Good, bad, the ugly.
Yeah. Take all those
Beautiful.
experiences in. They're just
Yeah,
opportunities. Like if you feel the
yeah.
resistance, lean in and listen and see if there's an opportunity there. Because it
Mm,
usually is. There's usually just something to take away. There's something to learn. There's always growth if you invite it in. Being in a space of singleness is really like a sacred journey. It doesn't have to be something so scary. It can be something so sacred. We just get to change the narrative around it.
yes, yes. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey since you've healed and what that has looked like for you in your life and not only what you do with your clients, but like how you can keep this long term too?
I love that question because I think that there are a lot of people who are going through trying to look for quick fixes
Mhm.
instead of long-term sustainable results. Like I like to say to my clients, listen, I'm going to be your life coach in essence, but not for life. Because my job is to give you the transformational toolbox that I learned that I just continue to use so you can become your own coach for life. That's the goal. Like just long enough where you can choose to become your own coach for the rest and best of your life. My journey was I was going through life just I felt like I was killing it. I was like the Tiger Woman, top of my career, 6-figure earner. I was jet setting. I was an event planner at the time. So I was jet setting all over the globe on private jets and planning all these fancy trips for people. And my husband had his dream job in California, but we had moved. We had uprooted our whole entire life from Michigan, moved to California to
Oh,
pursue
you're
his.
from Michigan? I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
I moved to Michigan.
Grand Rapids, a little shout out there, a little plug. That's where my family's from.
I
Grew up,
love this.
went to Kalamazoo, went to Western, go Broncos. Whoop,
Love that.
whoop,
My
whoop.
brother went to Western. I'm from Metro Detroit, but I
Oh
love it
my
out there.
god. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I do too. And then we moved away from everything that we knew. In essence, that really helped us be with each other finally instead of everybody else and all the other things that we had going on. And when we for a couple of years there, we realized, oh, you're this person. Oh, I'm this person. We had been together for 11 years, but our lives had been really full of variety and lots of life options and lots of life changes. And so when we finally slowed down and sat with each other, we went, whoa, okay, who are we now? We had both kind of evolved in different directions, ended up getting divorced. It was somewhat of a mutual thing, although he did say, as we were discussing it, he was like, it's not you. I just never really wanted to be married. And I was like, would have been nice to know before we did all this whole thing. But luckily we split amicably. But what I will say is no matter if you chose to get divorced, if you didn't choose to get divorced, or if you collectively choose to go in that direction, the heartache and heartbreak that you feel it really doesn't matter how it comes about. It's devastating. It's destructive because you've created so much of your life's systems of beliefs and like this vision of how life's going to play out in your
Yes.
fairy tale brain that when that's no longer available to you, there is so much grief sitting in what was, what is, and what could have been that
Mhm.
if you don't address it, you feel so destroyed. And I felt destroyed. And it took, like I said, it took 3 years until I finally got to that pivotal moment of enough already. I'm sick
Yep.
and tired of feeling sick and tired. I decided to go to a women's conference. At that women's conference, I met my coach, and she was teaching a 12-month life coaching certification. And I always thought that's what I wanted to maybe be a psychologist or a therapist and help people in that way. But I never wanted to do the schooling for it, to be quite honest.
I
So
understand. I
kudos
understand.
to you. I'm cheering for you because we need you in this way. We need people. We need experts in this way. It's a totally different stream of thinking and expertise and professionalism that is so, so needed in our world. I love it. I just didn't have the gusto to back me through it. So when I heard that there was this opportunity, I was also feeling lost in my healing. And honestly, I thought, Katie, I was the biggest skeptic. I'm like, look, this girl can, if I can learn the tools that she's offering and it works on me, then I win. And I'm showing all the other divorced women how to do this because we'll see what you've got. And within 6 to 8 weeks, I had a total overhaul of myself, my understanding of self. The tools that she was using were so powerful and they weren't like woo tools. They were real things, tangible things that I was looking at the world through a lens of awareness that I never even knew was possible before. No one teaches you how to be a human. There's not a course called How to Be a Human, at least that I know of. There should be in elementary school and then carry on through college. Everyone should get a master's degree in how to be a human, but there wasn't at the time. So once it worked on me, then I was like, I am quitting this fancy schmancy job that I love, and I'm gonna teach other divorced women how to thrive after divorce. This has to be it. And so I did. I left my 6-figure job. I was like, goodbye. I gave them 2 month notice and I created my own program around it. And now I have a course and a community and we grow together for 3 months. And it's not only life changing for them, but it's been life changing for me to just have a co-nourishing, safe space where we can talk about what we're actually going through in real time. And having been through divorce and taught the tools on how to heal through divorce, it's like this beautiful culmination of personal and professional experience that I wish, quite frankly, I had however many years ago in 2015 when I went through divorce.
I say
And
the
it
one.
didn't exist.
I wish I had a me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But I didn't find my coach. I was actively in therapy. Like mental health treatment is totally different, incredibly necessary,
Yeah.
and totally different. So
Yeah.
I needed that when I needed it to stabilize. I didn't find my coach until like a year and a half later. And so I remember just being like, why didn't I have this when I was like right in the throes of my pain? Probably could have saved me some suffering, but I think everything's perfect and you get to where you are meant to go and how you're meant to serve your purpose. So what's next for you, do you think?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm open and available to everything. It's been a really cool journey to put your arms out. And I've had moments where I'm like, am I supposed to be doing this? Because quite honestly, it gets difficult to reach women who don't want to be seen, don't think they want to be seen, heard, and they think it's better to just isolate, get into your divorce cave for as long as possible. But once I'm able to hold hands with them and just go, hold on, just give yourself a chance, give yourself a little bit of a try. It's unlocked so many really beautiful opportunities. So I don't really know what's next. I just live by the mantra, I wonder how life will surprise me today. And I believe in being surprised and delighted with whatever that looks like, whether that's the tough stuff, which will just lead to more expansion for me and lessons for me, or whether it's the joys of life, which are just like full of pleasure and satisfaction. I love just letting life surprise me. And this year has just been filled with so many different opportunities. I got asked to be a masterclass host on a mental wellness app this last month, and that's been really fun. So I'm excited about the opportunities for that. And then just hosting the next round of Divorce Comeback Community, which starts in September. So that's what's coming up. And whatever the future brings, sign me up. I'm in.
So what is your relationship with marriage and committed partnership, given that your whole career is like committed to now coaching through women through divorce and their comeback and really finding their selves and their identity? I think for me, personally, when I was so focused for so long on figuring out who my identity was, it took a minute to like shift gears and be like, oh, I still do want partnerships, but I want it in a healthy way. How am I going to figure out how to reshift of like, and even now in partnership, I still have to renegotiate some of those like amazing skills I learned in coaching. Not, they're still very relevant, but I think I had to learn how to make room for a partner
Mm.
after like totally redefining my life without one.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. You know what? I'm gonna reel in a little bit of the partnership that I have right now. I'm not remarried. It's not necessarily that I'm choosing to not be married or choose to be married. I just am really letting life lead. And if and when that comes about for us, that sounds great. And if it doesn't, that's where it is for me. I think I still have some healing work to do around the fact that I felt like because my ex-husband said, I never really wanted to be married, I'm scared of asking another person to commit to marriage with me. Like I'm
Mhm.
scared. I think that wound is still pretty, it's still vulnerable in that space. And it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. I've been with my boyfriend now for 7 years. And I'm not afraid of marriage. It's not that. I'm afraid of being the one to say, hey, do you want to get married? And then feeling like I'm forcing someone again, even though that's not
Yeah.
what my intentions are.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to really feel through how that feels for you. But I will say that one of the cool things that happened, again, I did not go out looking for the partner that I have now. One of the divorce distractors that I had was I went on Tinder right away. I tried to start dating right away. I was like, I'll show him, look at how amazing I
Mhm.
am. I can get other people, blah, 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 from a very unhealed spot. That was one of the first 3 years. Then after the healing journey, I was like, you know what? I don't need to force this because I really love the relationship that I'm building with myself. And I really love the life that I'm creating for myself. And I'm just going to let people find me. I'm going to let friendships find me and stop forcing those. A lot of times we're like, I need to fit in. I need to fit in. I need to fit in. What do I need to do to be friends
I
with you?
have lost like all the friends I made, not all the friends, a lot of the friends I made during my single era were like ended up the toxic single era part were such toxic people.
Yeah.
I've had since through so many of them haven't lasted because I needed to feel community and belonging. And I am so grateful to those experiences. I needed them when I needed them. But wow, that is really eye opening for me now of like all the relationships that I thought were gonna heal me or scratch the
Yeah,
itch of loneliness.
totally.
Friendships,
Yeah,
like, I'm talking about,
totally.
like, platonic friendships,
Friendships.
also dating, but, like,
Absolutely.
platonic friendships and, like, female friendships that
Oh, yeah.
were totally not aligned with my authentic self because I still wasn't living authentically.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. And then when I started coming into my authentic self, I know that I repelled some of those friendships because they were like, who's this?
Who is this girl? Yeah,
And
even
I'm
ones I've
like,
had forever
this
and
girl.
ever. Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
this girl doesn't have those insecurities anymore. And she wasn't this version of me. She's not cocky. She's a little sassy sometimes, but for the most part, she's just good with herself. And she's not trying to fight for the attention and do all the things she thinks she needs to do to get you to like her and to belong or to fit in. She's not doing any of those things. And so I think that took some people time and it repelled people to go, oh, whoa, who's this version of you? And then I guess decided I was going to get really excited about that. Like, I no longer have to try to pull a man into this force field of mine or friendships into this version of me. It's just going to happen. And that's really what has
Yes.
happened. I was like, what would like, I got curiosity is the cure. I started to ask myself, like, what would it look like? What would become possible for me if I just started doing all the things that I love doing? If I started showing up the way that I want to show up, the way that I truly am? What would happen if I didn't want to stay at this party any longer and I just wanted to come home and get rest? And I told everybody that. What would happen if I just started being honest with people in every twist and turn? And so when I met my now partner, he just fell for that version of me and was like, hey, want to give it a try? And the most unique thing is we did long distance for 3.5 years. And I think this was really special because I was scared at the time to be in a deep and meaningful relationship with somebody that really mattered to me because I didn't want to lose myself again. Now I had created this version of me that I finally loved, that I loved doing what she wanted to do, when she wanted to do it, how she wanted to do it. And I was so scared of losing her that this long distance made me realize I didn't have to. So we did back and forth for 3.5 years, and it was this beautiful thing. And then during COVID, I was visiting him. He lives in Columbus, Ohio, which now I live
Are
here.
you still in
Um,
California?
no. And during COVID, I came to visit him for 3 nights, and I got stuck here for 3 months. One day we're sitting on the couch, and he was like, do you just maybe want to move in?
You're like,
And I was like, huh. And we had realized that this wasn't just going to work like long distance. I realized I could still keep who I am and he would love who I am, still making my own choices, having my own boundaries. We couldn't be more polar opposites. Like I am just like a different energy and he's a different energy, but it works so beautifully. Like I need his energy so badly and I know that he needs elements of mine as well. And so it's just that really is how you can work together. But I didn't go out seeking it. I just went out standing in myself. And that gives me a true sense of certainty that I'll take through. And
yes,
I'm not afraid to be where I'm at in this
yes.
relationship with myself and with him.
Yes, and I think too, like that's what I was getting at earlier, of just being when you're authentic, you do start to manifest. You whether you're being authentic or not, I should rephrase this. You're going to manifest people that are going to be mirrors to you
Yep.
and reflect where you're at. But I think there is something so beautiful about when you do step into your authenticity and you experience someone mirroring you for the first time as your authentic self.
Mhm.
And it is I never even knew that a feeling could exist or like that type of relationship could exist.
Yeah.
Also, while you're talking, I was thinking about how people like to dog on long distance relationships for developing a foundation or whatever. However, like there is something about being in your when you're doing identity work and you're figuring out who you are, and then when the time is right, the universe will manifest like if it's the right thing to, I believe, to be not long distance anymore. But for a time, I think it does work. People really hate on it, but I really do think that there can be for certain couples, it can be very useful, especially when you're doing that soul searching identity work.
I also got to practice, right? So like I'm
Yes.
being my authentic self all the for whatever this amount of time, however long it was, and then I would go outside of that habitat where I felt certain of how things were going. And then now I'm in partnership. Can I sustain and maintain my voice and my choice and who I really truly am while I'm on these 3 night or 4 night stays or 10-day vacations that we're taking? Is this just a honeymoon thing or is this can I be actually who I am when I'm away or when I'm with you? And that just luckily happened to be the case is that I had spent enough time distanced that then it was a practice time when we came together. And I didn't feel like that. I wasn't like, okay, here we go, let's practice. But it in hindsight, I'm like, wow, like it just was me really testing the waters to make sure that I could keep pace with myself authentically in those moments. And it
And
was
also
beautiful.
leaning into your intuition.
Yeah.
I think too, like when I was like a lot of people get stuck on when we're doing this work, especially if you're working with a coach or in a type of program. Personally, I went through this. You sometimes get like stuck on like the rules of what you're supposed to do. Like you like you present your clients with a roadmap. It's okay. This is the map. This is the formula that I am going to follow. Which these things are very important, right? To like building the foundations to scaffolding the work. But then once
Mhm.
you really start getting good at connecting with who you really are, you can really lean in and trust your intuition. That maybe I'm not following all the rules perfectly, and it's not I didn't envision myself being in this type of relationship or it going in this way. Whatever it is for somebody. But when you are so connected to who you really are, it usually ends up being the right thing. Even if on paper or like to somebody else looking in bird's eye view, it might not be as traditional or as to buy the book. And I think that's the beauty of also going through a comeback is that you get to experience the balance of finding who you are and following the roadmap and figure and having the belief and like really getting comfortable with yourself and then
Mm,
also being willing to take some risks in order
yes.
to get to that even up leveled next level. Because once I healed my heartbreak and I was like really good with who I was single, like I didn't know, I hoped and I believed that I would find the joy of a relationship, but I didn't know when that would happen. I also got really comfortable with the idea that it might never happen and
Yeah.
that I was going to create a really joyful life anyway, no matter what that looked like. But when I ended up finding or meeting my fiance, there was like a whole new level of healing or like just
Yeah.
next level joy and excitement that it would have never been available to me had
Yeah.
I not been open to it and to take a risk because I was also like, I've done all this healing work, so I'm just gonna sit pretty really like right here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really want to rock the boat that much. And if I
Yep.
just am like happily single and no one's gonna hurt me ever, like
Yep.
and I think that I'm still working through that even now. Like I'm getting married.
Yeah.
I'm getting married next year, and I'm like, what if he does get hit by a bus? Like
Yeah,
then my
that's the reality.
life.
Because I hear so many women say, "What if he just chooses to leave again? Or what if it just doesn't work out again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and what if he dies?" Because the reality is we are risking so much of our hearts anytime that we love anyone. You can love your friends, you can love your dogs, you can love your nieces and your nephews and your kids and your parents, and eventually something is going to give because we're humans and we don't last forever, unfortunately. So something will give. So don't look at those scenarios as, oh man, what if you get to enjoy and be in love beyond the time frame that you thought you would be? And that's a beautiful thing. But if you don't, you'll have never experienced that. It's an all or nothing. You either risk it and you're in love and you're in a relationship, or you don't risk it and you don't have that feeling. It's all or nothing. You don't
It
get to
really is.
choose a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's like having kids because I don't have kids. And I always tell my friends with kids, I'm like, I just want to remind you, I know you're frustrated right now. I know you feel overwhelmed or stressed or whatever it is, but you did choose to have kids. Okay. And you get all the things that kids bring. You get all the, I will never have those things because I'm not having kids. I will never have the kind of deep and meaningful love and connection and care as I age and so many things that you have because it's an all or nothing. You either have them or you don't. And I don't. So they're not going to have all of the moments of freedom and detachment and peace and things that I have during this time of my life, right? Because they're going to get a different collection of things. There's not one is better than the other. It's a different collection of things, and it comes with all the things that you get and all the things that you don't. And that's love. That's love
That
too.
it is, and it can look so different. And I think we do get caught up in who's better, who's worse, and this like arms race and the competition and the compare and despair of the
Yeah.
social media age that we live in, and who's better off, and who should women have kids or not have kids or whatever. I think it's going to be controversial for a lot longer than either of us are even alive. So,
Yeah.
but I think that this willingness to own your shit, heal, and take risks to potentially get hurt again in order to experience this up level joy. That really, if I could boil down what we just talked about for the last hour, would be like that is the roadmap, really,
Yeah.
is going through it, taking ownership of it, healing, and then being able to try again and
Yeah.
having that hope.
Mic drop. Mic
Boom.
drop.
There we
There's
go.
there's a butterfly card I have to read in front of you. A friend sent me this. I'll show it to you, but I don't think our viewers can see it.
I love this.
It's little butterflies, and it says, choosing to have joy is not naively thinking everything will be easy. It is courageously believing that there is still hope even when things get hard. And I just think that's so beautiful.
And I think it's very apropos that we talked about all these things. You have the butter. You and I have been mirroring each other this whole call. So, and I like every things you've said. I'm like, you're a little psychic, aren't you? You like pick up on energy. You got a little, we got some juju going on here.
Yeah, we do.
And I love that. But I think this is so important. And if you're listening to this and you're in a period of transition in life, whether it's going into marriage, out of marriage, into a job, out of a job, whatever it is, if you're in any type of period of transition, I think that aspects of this episode will resonate with you. I hope that they do. And I hope that you can apply some of these concepts that we did get kind of meta at some points and we were like really deep, talking very deeply about some really big top concepts. So maybe like pause, rewind, and digest this a little bit because we did really get into some big stuff. But a lot of what I covered with Heidi today was really like the pivotal things that really truly helped me heal. And honestly, I don't even think I've really talked about it in this way. I've talked about the external things that went on in my story, but I don't think I've spent a lot of time talking about the internal shifts because they're hard to explain.
Yeah.
They're very hard to explain, and I think we did actually a pretty good job, I think. But
I do too.
I don't do my own harm, but I think that we did really focus on that. And so I love that. Where do my friends find you, Heidi, if they want to work with you or interested in learning about you?
It's super easy. Everything is under Divorce Comeback Coach. So you can Instagram, TikTok at Divorce Comeback Coach, divorcecomebackcoach.com. The podcast is Divorce Comeback Coach. So find me there. Love to connect.
Thank you. I'm going to link all of your stuff in our show notes too. So if you're looking to toggle over to Heidi's show after listening to the episode, I encourage you to do that. I will link it in the show notes. And you guys know that I've announced I'm ending the show, and I don't know, I'll announce when I know exactly how many episodes we have left, but it's going to be by the end of the summer. So definitely as I have more guests on and a lot of them are going to have their own shows, definitely start collecting these in your repertoire to add to your listening inventory because I am going to be taking a long hiatus and we'll get into that in a future episode. I promise, but I never say never. I never will be off the mic forever because life ebbs and flows, as we talked about in this episode, and nothing is permanent. But I am going to be taking a much needed rest and pause here at the end of the summer. I will give you all the details of that before I turn off the mic for a little while. But I appreciate you being with me today, Heidi. And you just are so inspiring. You're such a light. And I love that you wore pink because it is so on brand, and just like your pink earrings and your pink shirt. It's just, I'm just really here for it. Absolutely. Love it.
Hey, I'm just really grateful to be a part of your podcast legacy and all you're doing. I'm a big fan. I love the show, and I'm glad that you're out in the world doing your thing and that you're honoring the break that you need. So thanks for having me.
You too. I love the work that you're doing. You're so inspiring. Thank you for joining my long list of lovely ladies who are doing such amazing, inspiring work. Keep doing what you're doing, and I will be back next week, my loves, with another episode of The B Word. That's all for this episode of The B Word. Don't forget to check out the show notes for any resources we shared with you today, as well as finding our links to our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel, and our website, bucommunity.com. You can find out all of our course offerings, memberships, opportunities to work with me individually, and more. That's all for now. See you next time.